So thank you, Nitika, for coming on board and coming onto my Zoom to have an interview all about some really interesting information and useful sort of stuff for parents of teens, the audience that I work with and like to support in terms of helping their teen through tricky stages, but also, let them navigate the world of work, part-time jobs or thinking about future careers. And I know that we briefly spoke yesterday about how we got into what we do. And I think what's a really nice starting point is just to hear a little bit about sort of what you do, and how you got there. And then I'm going to jump into, for about 30 minutes, some questions, and you can then answer them as you would, and just thinking about parents that might be listening, how it's going to help them with their teenagers. So let's just start. So did you
Yeah.
want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Firstly, thank you for having me on, Helen. I love what you're doing. I'm Nitika, the founder of Aila Money, Your Money PT. I'm on a mission to get everyone, especially women, more confident and in control of their finances. And why have I gone on this mission? Well, it's because I've actually come from a low-income migrant background and working in investment banking for 16 years, I got to see just how much access to information and advice the wealthy have to continue growing their wealth. And one big thing that frustrates me is financial advice is only available for those who have either 250K of assets or more to invest, or now it's more like 500,000. Now, which teenager or person in their 20s or 30s has that unless you come from wealth? No one. And so I want to make sure everyone has the accessible financial tools to help them achieve the life they want. And that starts at teenage years. And so that's why I've gone onto this and like I've launched a free app, which is the Isla Money app, which both parents and children are able to download and use that for the financial education, but also to work out the cost of the life they want, because that's what this is about. It's about making sure everyone has the opportunities and the access to the information to achieve the life that they want and deserve.
Amazing. And I think we covered a little bit in our sort of conversation yesterday, didn't we? That
Mm.
when we were at school, or certainly for me, there was no information about, how to set up, the simple things like bank accounts, or what a credit card was, or how to save, or what is investment, how do I invest, where do I go? That wasn't even available. And of course, now there is definitely a bit more available. But like you said, there's so many barriers to this information for a lot of people. And I know your speciality is women and empowering women. But when we think about teenagers, and I come from experience, I've got three children, but I've got one that's a teenager, and we're starting to talk about these really important things. And I'm no expert myself, hence why, having somebody like yourself that has got that background coming in to answer some amazing questions and provide some answers for our parents and any teens that might be watching. So what we're going to do, I've got a list of questions. We don't know whether we'll get through all of them, but I really wanted to make it actionable for parents as well in terms of the questions that I'm going to ask you. So I'm going to hop straight into it, if that's all right. And the first thing I want to ask is, how can parents begin discussing money with their teens without it feeling awkward or stressful?
That is a great question. And just to kind of caveat also, like obviously some of the focus we have is on women, but the other big thing for me is also getting people from a younger age because like you said, the financial education isn't there. And I know how much I struggled because I didn't have that background. So despite having maths, because there is so much emotion and confidence around finances, that is what needs to be given from an early age. But in terms of how can you hear a bit of her feedback? Sorry.
Yeah, I did just then. Hopefully, it might have just been our maybe. Yeah, I think it's better now.
Okay. In terms of how parents can begin to discuss money without it feeling awkward or stressful, I think for me, the main thing is it needs to be in everyday conversations. It's not a big talk. Um, I was mentioning to you a very scary stat for most people is actually children's money habits and attitudes are formed by the age of 7. So it's, you might be now starting to think about how you discuss money, but they have learnt their habits and behaviors by the age of 7. And bear in mind, they don't actually have money by that age. So they're running it, so they're learning it subconsciously through your actions anyway. So it's about weaving it into your day-to-day life from as early as possible. This isn't as, teenagers. Yes, obviously have those conversations as teenagers, but start as early as possible. Start as 3, and then show them how you're doing things. Show them that the steps you're taking to help show them how best to approach their own finances. And just the way we say with every conversation between parents and teenagers, it's giving them that open space and making sure that they feel comfortable asking you the questions, and helping them get the answers.
Yeah, that's so true. And I can't believe that statistically, you say that they've already, kids have by the age of 7 already learned sort of so much about, the value of money, or, how to use it or what it means. And I think, I've got a nearly 7-year-old now, and he loves counting money and he likes knowing how much money he's got in his wallet. And I wonder, oh, where's he picking that up from? But again, like you say, it starts to become part of, who they are and what they think about it. And I like to the point of, how can it sound like we're not as parents sort of nagging or, you know,
No.
lecturing about it, is talking, like you say, about things that, our day-to-day expenses and how we spend our money, how we budget our money, what we spend on certain things. I think is a really good starting point. So thank you for that. Um, what do you think? I've got a question here. Which financial habits should teens learn first before they start earning their own money?
Oh, I think we always have to go back to basics. And basics is your budgeting. Like, what money do you have and how are you using it? So there is so much that I didn't know when I was growing up in terms of what a budget is, how you think about it, because my parents just dealt with it. I knew that
Mm.
we came from a family that didn't have much money. So I knew we didn't have money, but I didn't know what that actually looked like. So bring them into those conversations for your household as well, but then get them to thinking about it for themselves. If they have pocket money, what are they doing with that? There are some industry standard rules of like what is a want expenditure, what is a need expenditure. How much are you putting? There is a 50-30-20 rule. 50% of people's expenditure should be their need expenditure, 30% should be their want, and 20% should be for their future. Now, you can already do that with a child's budget. You can be doing that from their pocket money. You can be doing that with a teenager with their part-time jobs. Use their budget to make sure that they are paying themselves first, and that's paying their future goals too.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important because as soon as they do start earning, they have a tendency, and this is in my experience with my teenager who has their first proper part-time job and has been doing quite a few hours this summer, and all of a sudden they've got quite a healthy chunk of money at the end of the month. And we had this conversation. And so I sort of said, look, why don't you give me a certain amount and I
Yeah.
can put that away for savings for next year for something that you want, whatever that might look like. And actually, he did do that. So
Yeah.
that's, the first sort of step, I guess, isn't it? Is, sitting down, working out how much it is. And then sort of like you say, I like this 30 or 50-30-20 rule. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. So thank you for that. What else have I got on my list? So, what do you think are the most common sort of money mistakes teenagers make, and how can parents help prevent them?
Um, I think it's sometimes teenagers don't know the value of money, and I don't blame them. So when you and I were growing up, we actually saw our parents go and use physical money, notes, coins. We got given that to count and see. In the last 15, 20 years, things have become more digital. If you think about your children, Helen, they have probably only ever seen you tap either a credit card or a phone. There is a magic bank that they have never thought about.
Yeah.
They don't know where that money comes from. It's just paid for by your phone or a tap of a card. They don't have that linkage in their brain of, but where is that money coming from? In the same way as we probably did a little bit more because we saw the notes. So like the common mistakes that they're making is overspending on their want expenditure in the today's present terms, um, underestimating how quickly things add up. It's,
Mm.
oh, it's like, but I want that sweet today. It's like, but that sweet today that you bought will mean that you're then not working towards maybe that video game you want that will take maybe a few more weeks worth of saving to do. Um, and then it's also about making sure that you discuss money with them. I've heard some instances, and I think it's a lot harder now in the digital world, where there is so much now play to pay, no, pay to play even, on games. So you're having to spend money on apps and video games in a way that sometimes they don't even realize they're doing. So it's about being careful and being mindful of that. Sometimes it's actually linked to parents' accounts, and parents are getting a big shock at the end of the month. I've heard bills of over £1,000 from parents where it's just
Wow.
to continue playing, they've just accidentally, like without knowing the impact, spent on a mobile phone game.
Yes, that's happened before with all sorts of like apps where it's a couple of pounds here and a couple of pounds there. And like you say, they don't realize, because it's not coming out of their bank account because perhaps they don't even have one at that point. So what are the things that parents can do with their teens then in terms of when we talk about budgeting? Is that the use of spreadsheets? In my mind, I'm thinking having a look at a budget spreadsheet, but there must be sort of more up-to-date places where you can go. So what would you suggest?
Yeah, I would say that there are now some great digital tools. Um, I think we come from a generation where we're probably happier in spreadsheets. And so you can definitely show them it like that. But now a lot of the apps, so I think GoHenry was the first app that was very focused towards children, but a lot of the big banks are now also stepping into this place. I know NatWest has a great one, Barclays does as well. Um, and all of them now also have the functionality of pots.
Mm.
You can have segregated pots for, say, high interest accounts, and you can do this instantly. Like it's all on the same app, so you can get your teen a digital bank account from their early teens days, and it can help them track their spending digitally, and it can then you can also then provide them the different pots for the goals they're working towards. So they can still work towards the goals of, say, buying, whether it's the new set of trainers they want or the day out that they are looking forward to doing. There is ways that those apps also help you working towards those goals.
Yeah, no, that's really true, isn't it? There are definitely some sort of more relevant apps that do that. And I know that we've used a few that have been great when you look back. And I think that that's a really important thing for a teenager is to be able to, be a bit analytical with it and look back and say, oh, wow. So for example, my son will look back and say, I've spent loads on food, and eating out. And that's taken up a majority of his earnings. And I say, well, okay, well, if you eat at home, if you make some sandwiches and those little £4, £2, £1 every single day, they mount up, don't they? Those small little costs, which we sometimes forget that we've even done. I mean, I know that I do that sometimes. I think, how much coffee have I drunk this month at different places? It soon makes you think, actually, I'm just going to go home and have a coffee. Or, as an adult, that's what I think. Actually, no, I won't go to my favorite coffee shop today. I might just skip it and see what that does look like at the end of the month. So I think it's a great sort of piece of advice is maybe parents that have got teens that maybe don't have bank accounts, maybe choosing ones that have got the analytics and the pots where you can put money aside is a really good starting point. I love that. And you mentioned at the start that you have a free app for
Yeah.
parents or for anybody. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yep. So Isla Money, I liken this to, well, we call it Isla Money, Your Money PT. And I really liken finances to the personal fitness space because there is so much of this that goes hand in hand, even with some of the things that you've just mentioned with the children. Parents now know that they have to get their children into a habit of exercising regularly or eating well. In the same way, we need to be working with teens and children to get them thinking about their money mindsets and how they're thinking about money. Like you said, if you're eating out every day, your child is instantly going to know that because they will see it either in the weight that they've put on or the spots they get on their face because they've had too much fried food. It's harder to see that in your bank account. So the bank account is the equivalent of standing on scales for the fitness world. And so what our app is trying to do as your personal trainer is help you understand where you currently are. So looking at your net income and your net wealth. And bear in mind, the teens may not have that at the moment, but that's fine. It then centers everything around the goals you want, like a personal trainer would do. It's like, but this is your life goals and the dreams you're working towards. So for them, this may be the holiday that they're trying to work towards, or the fact that they want to go to university, or they want to buy their deposit and move out. I'm sure teenagers, especially at the age of between 16 and 18, are thinking, oh my God, I can't wait to leave home and have my own place. What does that look like if it's a rental income they need or a mortgage if they're thinking longer term and what they want? So we calculate the cost of all of that for them personally. And then we give the personalized financial education on budgeting, saving, investing, putting your numbers for your expenses, your income in. We then do the same for on the investing, we will track everything back to your life goals. So they may have said that, they want to buy a property in 5 years' time. We will show you your investing module, showing you the tax efficient accounts that will help them save towards that. So a LISA, for example, and then we have the action tracking. So they can put their goals in, they can put their financial admin in, whether it's to open that LISA, for example. We will track that and give you updates on a monthly basis. So you see how you're progressing towards those goals. And then, every now and then people need extra help. And that is the equivalent of, say, going to a group gym class or doing one-on-one PT. And for that, we have our advisor network. So the mortgage brokers, the solicitors, the financial advisors, as well as AI guidance, all in one app, ready to go.
Wow. I love that. That is just, it covers so many different things. And I love the thought of, a teenager thinking about their future because again, they're influenced by so many things now and social media. It's very easy to look at people that they think are earning all sorts of money and thinking that came easy, as an example. But I think if you can help a teenager reverse engineer, what does their life want? What do you want your life to look like? How many holidays, what kind of car, what kind of life, whatever it might be, travel, whatever your thing is. And then you have an app where you can sort of look at, well, how much do I need to earn and what does that look like in terms of saving? I think that's amazing. So well done you for creating such a wonderful tool. Well, definitely if anybody's listening and wants to go on there, we'll put the links of your app and all of your contact details at the end. So thanks for that.
The
I
one
think
thing I would say for the teenagers, because they may not have an income, and this is a exercise I've already given to some parents. So parents can do it putting their own income numbers in, but actually get the children, like you said, to reverse engineer it and think about the careers they might want to have, and then help them find out what the average income for that career is at the age of 25 or 21 and go, hey, well, that would be your starting income. So if they put that number in, they will instantly get a little bit of a shock because the first thing I will then take them through is how much of that they actually get as net income after they have put in for national insurance and tax. And even that first number of being like, wait, that means a month I'm only earning £1,200? Huh? How does that happen? And so even that first step will help them think, okay, well, oh, that's a lot less than I thought I would maybe be getting for this career that I want to go into. What does the projections look like in the future?
Yeah, it's such an interesting point, isn't it? Because again, that sort of taps into, firstly, careers and what kind of potentially earnings you want to make and what that looks like. And then of course you've got all of the, yes, how much tax, and what does tax even mean, and how much tax will I be paying, what does NI even mean, and all of those sort of things that again aren't really covered in maybe the school curriculum. I don't think even under employability. So again, fascinating and really interesting, insightful, useful stuff for teens. So no, that's great, and I hope lots of people go and have a look at your app for sure. Um, so I've asked you about sort of where we can find out more about your app, which is fine because we're going to put some links at the back, and I'm just aware of time because we wanted to keep it within 30 minutes. If you had to give parents sort of one practical tip to help their teens take control of their money and build confidence, what would it be?
I think it is normalized talking about money. That's the
Mm,
main thing. Um, because there's so much that it's just having that first conversation. Teens need to know that we need to be able to talk about money in an open, judgment-free way, to have them have the confidence to ask the question. And it's also about remembering that it is all their habits are formed based on your behavior and your
mhm.
levels of confidence. So it's normalizing those conversations with them, but also, as with everything, leading the way, showing them by doing, not by telling them what to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, you touch upon another important part really, and I hope parents can, take a lot on from this conversation themselves, is sometimes it's not easy having those conversations about money at home, is it? Whether or not that's, with your partner, whoever might be in the household, often the conversation about money doesn't happen. So that's almost a starting point, isn't it? So there may be parents that think, well, actually, I don't really talk about money, may not be even consciously thinking whether they do or don't. And I think again, your app is a great way for them to sort of start, looking at their own finances, their own, wants, needs, and whatnot. So, there's probably lots of people that can, take on board a lot for themselves, but also, like you say, start having the conversation. Because I know it's not something that I personally have done, not because I've thought, oh, I don't want to talk about it, but just because it becomes not something that you're talking about very often. So it's really brought it to my attention, to be honest, as well.
To be honest, as a society, we are taught not to speak about money. In fact, we talk about death more than we talk about.
Mm,
And women
yeah.
especially are known to talk about a lot of different things, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this on this, but women will talk about sex more with their friends than they will money. And
Yeah. Interesting.
and
It doesn't
so
come up, does it?
and just remember, it doesn't have to be, you don't need to start talking about money with numbers. Like the first question is like, oh, what does money mean to you? What does it give you?
Mm,
Like, is it freedom? Is it security? What do you want to achieve in life and how will money help you? It's kind of starting with those levels of conversation without going into the maths. A lot of people think, oh, think talking about money is just talking about numbers and having to get a spreadsheet and do calculations. No, let's bring it back out. And there is so much emotions around money. It's about dealing with those first.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that we can probably have lots of different conversations and touch
Mm.
on so many different points that have come up here. But I hope for the listeners today that this has been useful, especially around supporting your teenagers with those kind of conversations, and, just start the conversation. I think we've got from the conversation today, and also take a look at the free app, which I think sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to go and have a look. So thank you so much for coming on and talking with me today. And I really appreciate it. And thank you very much. I'll speak with you again soon, no doubt.
Yes, and one more thing, if I can just highlight quickly, is as well as the free app, I am now running a 75-day money challenge. So it's called 75 Money. And oh, don't worry, it's not as hard as the 75 hard or as time consuming, but all it consists of is giving you intentional time to focus on your money. And it's a 1 hour live session each week with a group of women who then come together and I go over different topics about finances. So whether it's budgeting, saving, how to think about debt, investing, thinking about your pension, thinking about income and how to negotiate your salary. Each week, we'll be going over a different topic, and the course will last for 11 weeks, and it's free with just a small accountability deposit. So if you'd like to
Amazing.
join, please check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that I've got the links for that, so I'll definitely be joining. So thanks again, and we'll no doubt speak again in the near future. So thank you.
Thank you so much.